Can we please have Rose step forward? She is our programs chair, and we would love to have you introduce our shining light.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Great to see everyone here. It's an amazing pleasure for me to introduce the next speaker. Here's just a small part of his resume. So if Jay Ansley tunes into this videotape, this is what he's going to hear. As a former Marine and later Special Forces Green Beret, Semi has served our country with honor and distinction, earning several of our nation's highest awards: the Bronze Star of Valor, Purple Heart, and Meritorious Service Medal, to name a few. Semi is a behavioral scientist and executive director of Team Concepts Training and Consulting. He has had a distinguished career in leadership, serving as an associate director for the Washington State University, federal director of the Department of Energy, and advisor to the ambassador of Bangladesh. Semi is currently serves as a school board director for the Richland School District, where he fought to give mask choice to students, create a parent advisory committee to the school board, and a student representative position on the school board. Please help me welcome Semi Bird.
Oh my goodness. Well, first thing out of my mouth is God bless you and thank you so much. I've had nothing but a warm welcome since I walked through the door, and that statement about the light, I got to tell you guys. And so God lays out our plan of life, and I'm not here to preach. I'm not a theologian. I'm just a guy. I'm just a mama's boy, right? Oh, I am. I'm a mama's boy, a drama queen. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. So don't let that special forces stuff fool you. I'm a big crybaby. But my entire life has been laid out by God. And I know that to be true for me. And I don't put my beliefs on anybody, but I'm not afraid to share my beliefs with everybody. Because when you've experienced the love of Christ, when you've experienced the goodness and the hardship of life, and then realize it was all for something. Are you still with me? Because so often we get wrapped around the axle of hardship, and we forget about the light. We forget about what's beyond that. And I believe that a person's character is often defined at those crossroads of adversity, where you have to rise above, you have to push through that hardship. And I share this with you because my entire life has not been all hardship. People could say that, and maybe I'll share some of my life with you, but there was so much love and goodness in my life, and I'm going to share that with everybody I can until God takes my last breath. And so I just want to comment on that, because we all bring our essence of life, our essence of that light to any discussion, and I cannot do this without you. I'm not alone, right? I know I'm not alone, but we're not alone either. So let me start talking. I don't do speeches. I used to get paid to do speeches, and even then I don't think I did speeches. I like to speak from the heart, and I want to introduce myself more than just being a mama's boy and a drama queen who wears his emotions on his sleeve. But that's really who I am as a person. I love everybody, and it seems different for a grown man to come up here and say, I love everyone. And I want you to think about the peace that gives me, bringing happiness to people that I meet, because that's what's in my heart. Now, make no mistake about it, there's a warrior here, right? There is that warrior. I do have the personal courage, the intestinal fortitude to stand strong for the American people, for the Washington that I love, the citizens that I love. I have no hesitation to take a bullet, as we would say, for my mission. And my mission is to unite our state. My mission is to put focus on the issues and bring real solutions with action. If you think about what a politician is, the first thing I would say to us, again, at the very beginning, at the outset of this journey, is it is time to replace career politicians with career Americans. And my life's journey was what that was building up to. I'm a career American as far as I am concerned, And what does that mean? That means, again, I felt the love, I felt the hardship, I've gone up, I've gone down, and here I am. So let me tell you about my story. I started out my life's journey in the inner city ghetto of East Oakland, California. In 1961, pre-civil rights. Some of you know where Oakland, California is. I could hear it with the nonverbal, like, oh my Lord. Yes, I was born with a Kevlar diaper, I'm kidding. It was a rough neighborhood. My older brothers and sisters had a lot worse than we did. So at the light at that end of the tunnel, I was very blessed. But yeah, pre-civil rights, right? Single woman with 7 children. Imagine that. So as I stand in a room full of women, let me just be very clear in saying my entire life, who I am as a man, has been shaped by the love and strength of a strong woman. Make no mistake about that. Never underestimate your power and what you bring. This is God's blessing to humanity. And you know, it takes 2, right? So mom raised me never to embrace victim behavior. And if you think about why that is, she loved me. She didn't want her son to think he was a victim or want people to feel sorry for him. My mother built resilience in me. She built that personal strength, that personal courage, what understanding of what self-esteem is. So that when I found myself dealing with adversity, which back in the 60s, I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of racism back in the 60s. There's racism today. There's racism because we're human beings. We have sinned. We were born into sin. Man will sin. You guys understand that? My mother knew that, which is why she gave me the Bible and a dictionary. She said, with that book, you're going to fill your soul. With this book, you're going to fill your mind. And if you fill your soul and you fill your mind, there is nothing that you cannot accomplish in life with hard work and prayer, not hopelessness and despair. It's a difference. It's a mindset. So mom raised me to have that personal courage. And after some years, I was 7 years old, there was a breaking point. I was outside watching an airplane. I don't think I've ever told this story before. I was watching an airplane. We lived in the projects. So, you know. And an airplane's coming. I've always was fascinated with airplanes. So I looked up and I'm watching it go like this. And all of a sudden it was like lights out. And some gangsters from the 3rd floor dropped a baseball bat on my head. I was like 6 or 7 years old. And it kept my eyes open here, my eyebrows. And the door was open because we had family over. My uncles, my aunts, and my cousins were over. And all I hear is my mom scream. It's like, oh, Lord. And yeah. But she says, that's it. We're out. That is it. And we moved to Seattle. Right? We escaped to Seattle. I was raised in Seattle. Well, not the Seattle you know today. And we should talk about that. Because the Seattle we see today, it is not the Seattle of yesterday. And you know that to be true. You know that to be true. We're going to get that Seattle back. I promise you that. If I get elected to governor, we're getting Seattle back. And we'll talk about what that looks like. I promise you that. And I don't make promises lightly. I don't. And so I was raised in Seattle. Raised in Seattle. People don't know that. They think, oh, you're Eastern Washington. Yeah, that was by choice. After I came back from the military and saw what Seattle had descended into, I made a choice. And so I moved to the east side. Still have family over here. But Seattle was my, how should I say, improving ground, if you will. Right? It was where I started to develop my persona, my personality. And I was raised with around people of different colors, different faiths, mostly on the lighter side. I was raised around a bunch of white people. My mother did that by intent. And by the way, I'm going to talk about race. And please, I don't mean any offense, because I think it's time to start talking about race, right? Which instead of focusing on race to divide us, let's focus on race to unite us. And so I'm proud to say my mother wanted me to see a different side than what I saw in my family. Why do you think that was? Because my mother knew that Jesus resided in all people's hearts if they chose to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. My mother saw the goodness of everybody. And if she was here today, she's in heaven right now. But if she was here today, she would welcome you with this big hug. Come on, baby, give me a hug. And that's not just to me, to everybody. That's how my mother was. You can kind of see it, I hope, in her son, why I love people. That's how I was raised. And so as I grew up in Seattle, I struggled in grade school and in high school. K through 11, D's and F's, and maybe a C, and that was a good grade for me. And my mother always said, David, you can. You can do better. Keep trying. You can do better. You can. She always said I could, I could, I could. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I like to share with others, my mother raised me to be an American and not an Americant. And I think that is worth repeating. You see what I'm saying? Because if you understand what America really is, and I think that's what's wrong with our society today. People do not know what America really is. Our youth do not have a clear understanding of what America is. Today, I want to endeavor to give some clarity to the essence of America, starting with my story. Because yes, I did drop out of high school in Seattle, and I joined the Marine Corps. That's how I got in the Marine Corps. And I chose the Marine Corps because the uniforms were pretty. That was the only reason. Oh, those are nice uniforms. I had no idea. Man, the Marines picked me up, beat me up, spit me out. They took out a boy and spit out a man. And I'll tell you, I got in trouble in the Marine Corps, and I'm going to tell you this story. I experienced racism in the Marine Corps, but not systemic. Out of all of my time, one person happened to be the sergeant at my last duty station. And he always had something to say, his little quips, his little jokes. And I just smiled. My mother said, you're not going to fight over that. My entire life, I was not allowed to fight. I competed in Taekwondo, the Washington State Taekwondo Association. My mother put me in martial arts when I was this big. She did, for the reason that you will not fight, because she knew people were going to call names, and they did. But she did not want me to fight. She wanted me to learn discipline. And someone that she worked with told her that. And so that was my inner strength as well. And so this sergeant finally pushed me to that last bit of tolerance that I had. And as soon as he reached out to grab me, I had a response. And he woke up, and I got in trouble, rightfully so. You don't hit a sergeant. And I learned that lesson the hard way. I will tell you, it got harder because I knew I was going to get hammered by my company because he was one of the favorites. And I said, well, I want trial by court. I had no idea what I was asking for. Oh, that meant trial by court martial is what that meant. Oh, yes. Oh, sure. Uniform Code of Military Justice, you sure can. And I did. And after everything came out, which is what I wanted, the commander said, well, it was self-defense, but you still struck a non-commissioned officer. And you will lose rank. And you're going to chip paint off of naval ships for the next 28 days. And I did. But I never gave up hope in myself. I never gave up hope in the Marine Corps. I never gave up hope in my future, because that was how I was raised. I went back to my unit. I got a promotion. I received my honorable discharge. I went to college to get my bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree, summa cum laude, 4.0. I went to college to get my master's degree, 3.74. I'm finishing up my PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. This is America. This is my America. This is our America. And like our faith in our Lord Jesus and our faith in our God the Father, it's all different depending on how your perspective is. But I know what this country has done for me as a person. 16 years later, I found myself volunteering for Army Special Forces. I was 43 years old when I became a Green Beret. 43. And then I deployed. And I went into Special Forces Intelligence. Then I started to work out of embassies, as folks have heard. And I'll leave it at that on the intelligence side. But recently we're talking about Taiwan. So, 我会说一点中文，但是我说得不好. Right? Because I worked in Asia Pacific, area of operation. China was my country of study. Taiwan was the country I would often visit to support them in building that partner nation capacity for such a time as today. So having that worldly understanding, I was talking to a friend earlier today, and we were talking about Africa. Having traveled the world in North Africa and other places, you have an appreciation for this great nation. And I wish that every citizen could leave the country and see what it's like in a third world nation, so that they would have an appreciation. Because when you are born in this nation, every single American citizen is born with privilege of this great nation and the heritage that we inherited. We don't see that. People take for granted what we have every single day. I'm not afraid to talk about it, and I'm not afraid to celebrate it. So I'll kind of finish up in terms of that introduction. I did multiple deployments. I zigged when I should have zagged, so they gave me medals from the president and the Purple Heart, and I was blessed because God kept me alive. God, I was in an A team, a Special Forces A team. We were hunters. We weren't the people that just did random controls through the desert. At Old Dark 30, we were going out kicking indoors, bringing in people out of that deck of cards, right? And so every time it seemed like it was a firefight. I'm here today by the grace of God, not just from combat. God has brought me through life. God has brought me through cancer, combat, and God will bring me through this campaign in fine fashion, as he always has. Make no mistake about that. This is a calling for me. This is my calling. It's a duty to serve, and it's an honor to serve. And what we're missing in our nation right now is leadership. What we're missing in our state right now is leadership. And we need to understand that power is inherent in the people. That's Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution. Just if anyone didn't know. Power is inherent in the people, and governments derive their just powers from the governed. And it is government's job to protect and ensure the individual rights of our citizens. And so when I found myself sitting in a school board, because I said no to senator, I said no to congressman, I was never going to get in politics, no way, no how, no thank you. And then they shut down our schools, and they shut down our churches, and they shut down our businesses. And I had an understanding of the Constitution. And I said, no, I will fight for our children. And I took that oath, and I swore, and the first thing I did as a school board director, that night, I walked up to my dais chair, and I made a motion. My motion was to give voice to parents and families, because they're the most powerful force in a child's upbringing and in a child's education. And I said, we must have a parent advisory committee to this school board, so we hear directly from parents and those families. And we passed it unanimously. We did a lot of great things in the school board. I'm still serving. A lot of great things. And it's not one. It's a board of at least 3 to make a quorum. And we're a divided board. We have 2 people that are on that side, and we have 3 people, praise be, that are on this side. And it's still a struggle. But we're not afraid to lead, and I'm not afraid to act. Again, intestinal fortitude and personal courage to do the right thing. That was bred into me. As a boy, as a man in the Marine Corps, and as a man in Army Special Forces, I've seen so much horror and death, but I've seen so much love. And I live in the light. And when you've lived in the light, you want to share that light with others. And this is why, when you said that, I had no idea. I'm not going to cry. I'm a big crybaby, by the way. But it touched me. It touched me that here I am at age 62, where I can serve and be of service to others. This is the time that we need more light out there for us. We are living in despair right now. We are living in despair. We are living in hardship as a nation and as a state. We need leadership. We need someone who is not afraid to represent what right looks like, not to give in to the establishment, not to give in to the special interest. I'm going to tell you, you have that on both sides of the aisle. You know that, correct? I'm not a revolutionary. I'm a Republican. I'm a Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass Republican. And what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what that means. The Republican Party was the party of abolition. Absolutely. Right? 1853, we were the party of abolition. We were the party that ended slavery in America. We were the party that pushed civil rights across that line with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We have always been a party of the people, a party of the underdog. It has been our duty to raise people up from despair. I will bring and rebrand what Republicans are supposed to be like, so help me. And I hope I'm not crossing any lines. We have our faith in God, and it's different for all of us, like I said. Our affiliation with how we define Republican or how we define conservatism. People talk about pronouns, and I tell them often, I identify as a constitutional Christian conservative, and that's who I am. And I align with the Republican Party. I always have. I always look to the left every time, every election. I wonder what they're bringing. Every election. And I'm not afraid to say that either. And every time I voted over here and not over there, but I looked. Because I wanted to say, why are so many minorities gravitating that way? And then over years of observation, I figured out smoke and mirrors and false promises, right? Say anything, spin that honey in the ear, and then when they get elected, the ghetto is still the ghetto. Bad schools in the ghetto, crime in the ghetto, it's still the ghetto. What happened to those promises? Remember, we're Republicans. We're Republicans. So you already know what's going to happen once we get elected. We will lift people up. And I want you to understand, I'm a fiscal conservative. I am a fiscal conservative. As a behavioral scientist, we don't do the couch and clinical stuff. I'm an organizational behavioral scientist. I look at people and how they interact with the organization and how they create value for the organization and how the organization creates value for its people. Can you see us bringing this to Olympia and how government works, actually understanding that government is there for the people and not the other way around? That the governor is there in service of the people and not the other way around? It's the governor who is not supposed to impose his or her will or personal beliefs on the people, but it's the job of the people to exercise self-governance, to hold that governor accountable. And there is no greater time than when we vote in November in 2024 to hold this governor accountable. Accountable. And I want you to also understand, I don't live in darkness. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. always said, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can. So when we get elected in November of 2024, I'm bringing the light, I'm bringing the love. There's no vendetta. There's no vindictiveness. It's going to be a new day with a bright light for Washington State, because I see a Washington State where our streets are clean. Where our streets are clean. Where crime is being managed. Where criminals not dare the shadiness that they are perpetuating every day right now because of bad laws, bad policies, and bad leadership. I'm getting fired up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I left off at leadership, so I'm going to get back to my life story, then we're going to carry forward to the future. So when I left active duty, I went reserve status because I was not going to give up on my military. Right, so I had to stay active a little bit, right? And I didn't realize that when you're Special Forces Intelligence and there's only about this many of you, you get called up and called up and called up, and not as a team anymore, as an individual asset. But I took a job with the United States Department of Energy. I became a Fed, a federal employee. And I started at GS nothing, and I worked up to GS 14 as a federal director. Yes, God is good. And you know, as they say, God is good, and there's no buts to that. We have to do our due diligence. We have to do our bit in this whole life experiment. We cannot sit back and wait for God to do it for us. Just like any other father, he will hold us accountable, right? And I've seen it. And every time it was a lesson and a lesson learned, and I grew from it. But I became a Fed. And again, I achieved success. I was a federal director of organizational development, which focuses on efficiencies and best practices and improved performance. And then I became acting chief of staff. This is at the Hanford Nuclear Site cleanup mission in Richland, Washington. And then I went back to being a federal director, training and leadership development. And then I went to work at Washington State University as the associate director of professional development and community education. And again, I taught leadership development. And then I hung my own shingle, team concepts training and consulting as a consultant and behavioral scientist to Hanford, all the contractors, to the United States, different agencies, to universities, to hospital systems, to educational systems. When something's going wrong in how they operate, I get called in. And we map it out. We put metrics and measures in place. We lay out a strategy with a plan and how we're going to execute on that plan. And then we measure our performance because we actually have a vision. We've identified the mission and we've identified how to make that vision a reality. This is what I do for a living. Imagine what we can do in Olympia after 2024 with your taxpayer dollars. And so, as I say, it's time to replace career politicians with career Americans. This is my version of what a career American is. Someone who was not given everything, someone who worked hard for everything he has in life, acknowledging the goodness and the graciousness of our Lord Almighty and the amazing upbringing from my mom. I never had my dad in my life, except part-time sometimes. Then after 25 years of not even seeing him, we came back together. And my dad, who was a very hard man, showed me his best that he could. One time he said, "I love you, son." One time he said, "I'm proud of you." It only took one time for me. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm a career American. We will bring accountability and leadership to Washington State. We will bring love and we will lift everyone up out of despair. And why? Because when we lift one person out of poverty, do you understand what that does to us as a state? It's not just to fill our souls, but now we have a citizen that's not taking from our system, but is now giving back to our system. This is an investment in the people who have been forgotten. We're not giving anything away. This isn't a Marxist government. This is a constitutional republic. There is a return on investment of love and compassion. Yes, for me, it's filling that heart with doing the right thing. But as a fiscal conservative, it is a good investment of our taxpayer dollars to stop subjugating people to a lifetime of poverty with a broken welfare system that gives them just enough to keep them poor for the rest of their lives. And when you think of the children who see that in their parents, in these communities, where is their hope? I had to tell someone the other day when I was doing a class on diversity and inclusion. Oh, yes, I teach that. Oh, yes, I do. And we'll talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But you know where I'm coming with it. I'm bringing a whole new curriculum. It's called the Declaration of Independence of the Constitution of the United States of America. Right? And so what I was telling this gentleman, to help him understand, why would I want this company to invest in these communities? Because he said, Simi, and he's a good man. He's a good man. He said, Simi, I don't want to sound off, but I know I can say this with you. He says, why would we not do that for white communities? And I said, well, first of all, poverty is not racist, to be clear. Right? So we think that it's only black people that drop out of school, or black people who are poor, or black people who are on food stamps. That is not true. And when I hear people forget that only to lift up one group at the expense of another, that is about as racist as you can get, in my opinion. And I will not have of it. I was raised well, and I listened to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and how he taught us to come together and how he facilitated civil rights. He did not do that by isolating one race and blaming one race and trying to elevate another race. He understood that this was something that we had to do together. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for and died for the soul of America. And he said that the Declaration and the Constitution was a promissory note, a magnificent promissory note to the American people, all of the American people. So when we get into office, we're going to cash in on that promissory note. We're going to elevate people. We're going to revamp our welfare system. It is not a permanent disability check. It is a hand up and not a hand out. We will no longer subjugate people to a lifetime of poverty. We're going to lift them out of poverty, and they will start paying taxes. We will give them a skill. We will get them a trade. We will get them a certification, all part of a job placement program. And we will supplement those single moms or single fathers for child care, because we know how much child care is. We will bring the full package, and we will be successful. We will no longer subjugate, because we're Republicans. This is conservatism at its best. I want to touch a little bit on education. Our education system is broken in Washington State. It's broken. It's broken. It can be fixed. It can be fixed. I've got people talking about, I'm leaving state all the time. Whoa, slow down. True story. I was just across the street. I stopped in for a cup of coffee. And there was a gentleman that was walking out as I was walking, and he goes, "Is that your Audi?" I'm going to tell you, it was a black man. So he's like, "Brother, is that your Audi?" I'm like, "Well, yes, it is." No. God is good. Hard work. And I said, "Well, let me give you my card." I gave him my card. Because we're an inclusive party, are we not? And so I want to share the light. I want to bring some of the, right? And share that love. And he says, "Oh, I wish I knew this last year. I'm leaving. I just retired. I'm going back home to Kansas City." True story. An hour ago, right across the street at there's a pancake place. Y'all probably know what I'm talking about, right? So this is happening every day. Our education system is broken, and families look for a quality education when they're looking for where they're going to live, right? And so we're going to bring accountability back. First, I'm an advocate for school choice, and I want you guys to understand that. Money should follow the backpack. Money should follow the backpack. And I'm not going to give up on our public education system. And I want people to understand, I will fully fund public education. And our special needs children will not go unresourced ever under my administration, ever. I want you guys to understand something, and most people don't know this. Special needs is not fully funded by the state of Washington at this time. It hasn't been. You would think it is as much money as we pay with our levies, right? Right, with those bonds. You would think, but it's not. Education is not fully funded. Now, I could almost understand why, because the performance is terrible. But that's not why it's not fully funded. They're not even holding anyone accountable. When we get elected, we will hold our education centers accountable for their performance. I had WASDA, the Washington State School Board Directors Association. They said in a workshop, well, you know, Semi, you're talking about a strategic plan, but this is education. Bless their hearts, in the most Southern way. I said, but are we not in the business of educating children? So let's talk about doing it better. Let's create a strategic plan. Let's be fiscally responsible. Let's set a vision. Let's establish a mission. And let's map out how we make it happen. And we did it in the Richland School District. First time in their history. That parent advisory group, first time in their history. Passing a policy to ensure that critical race theory will not be taught in our school district. First time in history. Right? We're just getting warmed up. All right? Passing a policy that says if you're going to teach anything controversial in a classroom, you will have to contact those parents and let them know what you're going to teach before you teach it. There's a lot of programs that we need to opt out of. I think that should be switched around. Parents should have to opt into it. Yes. Because we need to get back to teaching English and language arts, math, and science. That's what we need to focus on. You have the teachers union, and I am no enemy to the teachers union per se. I'm a friend of the utmost to every educator in this state. I will say every educator that's ever lived, because education is a solemn calling. It's a beautiful calling. It's a beautiful occupation. So we will never hesitate funding our teachers and our educators, ever. They just need to do their job. It is not a school's duty to raise children. That is the parent's job. It is not a school's position to indoctrinate a child, right? Learning what they need to learn in terms of social engagement, I'm all for that. but let's not take the parents and the families out of the lives of our children. And that's what they're doing right now in Washington State at every turn. And friends, I want you to cut me off when we need to get to questions and answers. I don't want to take up too much time, because I will just keep going. But because there's so much to say, right? There's so much to do, is there not? We have a lot of work ahead of us, and you need to know what I'm going to do. So real quick, we will bring school choice. We will fully fund education. We will invest in rural education. We will make sure that special needs children has all the resources that they need to reach their maximum potential. And when I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, here's equity, the proper division, the definition of equity. It's meeting that child where that child is, understanding that child's needs, providing that child with the resources he or she needs, and then lifting that child up to that standard, not lowering the standard down to a child. You do not do a child any good lowering standards. This is equity. And when I talk about diversity, let me bring diversity in my administration. Diversity is America. Diversity is America. Understand where we come from, our history. Simi, you're tired. You're poor. You're huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. That wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me, and I will raise my lantern beside the golden door. The Statue of Liberty, that poem, The New Colossus, right, by Miss Lazarus. Those words have meaning. Why? Because it depicts the essence of who and what America is. We were never the elitist society. We were never the racist society. We were the homeless, tempest-tossed. We were the suffering. We were the downtrodden. We were the isolated. We were the slaves. We were the women who had no rights. But look at us now. Look at America now. And there's a dark side, but there's a light side. And the light side says the essence of America is alive and well. When we come together, all of us together, and we focus on that light, and we lift up one another, and we do not allow those special interests on this side or that side pitting us against each other, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. And I do not play that game. I will tell people who I am and how I am. I will honor my word like I did in the school board, because that's how I was raised. Those are my beliefs. Imagine what we can do. Imagine what we can accomplish together, where we dismiss this vile rhetoric that because you're a white person, you're racist, or because you're a black person, you're not as good as you could be, or there's something wrong that you need all this special attention. You can't get a voter ID, oh, because you're black. Do you understand how insulting and racist a statement like that is? I'm telling you, I have never resided on the Progressive Plantation. I said it. Because I was raised right. I am a career America. A career American. A meritocracy. It's something that I wrote. It's meritocracy with the essence of America. That if you're willing to work hard, there is nothing you cannot accomplish. So my friends, this is just a taster. This is just a warm-up. I could sit here for an hour, and I will go down. You're going to have questions. Hopefully we have time. I didn't take all that time.
You own the stage.
Oh, bless your heart. It's on. Somebody like, oh, don't tell him that. Oh, Lord, no, you don't know. But we're going to go into questions and answers because I want to hear from you. Don't hesitate. Get down in the weeds, because I'm tired of politicians giving a sounding talking point, and there's no depth to them. You look back on people who have lost elections, and then you look at their, right? You don't have to be a career American, but you need to know what your plan is. You need to have an idea of what you're going to do. How are you going to make a difference if we vote for you? That's what you deserve to know. And I will tell you, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm going to tell you how, just real quick. We are reaching out to communities that conservatives have never reached out. I'm going to the inner city. I'm knocking on doors. I'm knocking on doors. I'm going in those black churches, those Hispanic churches, those synagogues, those mosques. I'm going everywhere. I'm going out in the fields of Eastern Washington, because those Americans deserve a voice like any other American. I'm not operating within the cabal. Now, I want you to know I'm also the chairman of the Benton County Republican Party. So, although I talk about lifting people up, and what our party has always been about that we forgot, and we allowed them to steal our heritage and our history. I'm not playing that game. I'm not afraid to talk about what the Republican Party is all about. I'm bringing that back. It's like bell bottoms. So we're going to keep it around for a while. I'm bringing it back, but we have to go and tell them who we are and what we're about, because you know what they think we are. Oh yeah, don't think they haven't insinuated that I'm a racist. And I handed them their fourth point of contact when someone said that to me. That's their, right. I said, do you know where I come from? Do you know what I've been through? How dare you? How dare you insinuate that I had it any better than anybody else? And because I dare have an individual thought, what happened to diversity? What happened to inclusion? What happened to the equity of understanding that I can bring something to the table too? Oh, they didn't want to have anything of it. So I got to say, they wouldn't let me back on the Progressive Plantation because he's a poison. He'll be talking about America and opportunity and the greatness and never give up, never quit, pray to God and love God. Oh, he's gonna mess our game up, so we can't let him on the. I'm just letting you know. Okay, I'm going to stop now. I saw your hand up, my dear.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Have you got people in mind for key administrative positions that you have the power to appoint after, wipe out everybody that's there that are appointees, and you've got people to put in there, or are you going to try and work with them?
So based on the sequence that you asked, yes, no, no, yes, no, yes. But no, I'm with you. I'm just being silly. So I will have, and I'm already starting. So I do have people right now. So I'm driving it like we own it, just so everybody understands. We've won the election, and I'm backwards planning right now. And my team, we call it red lines. Red lines. We're looking at legislature. We're looking at what has been broken. And we're planning and strategizing how to fix it now. And by doing so, that gives us the knowledge of the issues that we need to fix once we get elected. But here's what I will not do. And this is important for everybody to understand. I'm not going to go in and burn down the house. Right? There's something we call, was it the Marshall Plan? I think it was post-World War II. We realize you don't go in there and just fire everybody that knows how to operate the boilers and operate the train system and operate that. You just don't go in and decimate the system because it's ineffective, it's inefficient, right? Plus, I'm a person that gives everybody an opportunity. Now that they're actually going to have leadership, right? I'm going to help them have an understanding of what a vision is, a mission is, and a plan of execution. One of the first things I'm going to do when I get elected, when we get elected, is I'm going to call for a third-party audit of all state programs and all state offices. It's not to hurt or penalize anybody. I'm a behavioral scientist. I need a baseline understanding of what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, how are the money being spent, right? So we can start ensuring if a program's a program, is that program working? Prove it. What are your metrics? How do you measure it, right? I can tell you right now, homelessness isn't working. I can tell you that right now. You don't even need a metric, but I'll tell you 10% increase in the last, year? 24 months? At the cost of $800 million? And then probably billions more if King County has their way? Do you want to invest your taxpayer dollars in that? I sure as the heck do not. This is why we need to invest now in this campaign. But I hope I answered your question. We are working on filling positions as needed, but I will not go into an office as a new leader and start my administration by terminating people. I need to give them an opportunity to perform. They need leadership and direction. I will give them clear leadership and direction. They will understand my expectations. And my only expectation is very simple. You will perform to a standard on behalf of the citizens of Washington State. You will earn the money you're getting paid. There's no free checks in the state government anymore. So did I answer your question, my dear? Thank you. And feel free, take me down in the weeds if you need to go deeper, I'll answer. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Oh, is the microphone behind you?
Yeah, but everybody wants to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I'm sure.
I want to hear it. I want to hear what it's all. Just put it up by your mouth.
Okay, first of all, my husband and I saw you speak at Christ the Rock Church ever so recently and really enjoyed it. And so it's really great that you're here. Anyway, my husband is at home and when my neighbor and I came and we were going out the door, the last thing he said is, find out what his feelings are about this election, machines, and what he knows and what he thinks about, the whole, who's counting the votes? Election fraud. He's quite concerned about that. So I really hate to stand here and be a wet blanket.
No, you're not.
But I'd like to give him an answer.
No. So election integrity is foremost on a lot of people's minds. And I'll tell you, it's coming from different things. Number one, there has been hanky-panky going on. Right? And so this is not election denial, because so everybody understands, whether you're a Democrat or an independent or Republican, election integrity is important to you. And by the way, all of those branches of party affiliation have had a problem with our system. So it's not just one party that has a problem with the system. So I'm a believer, control what you can control when you can control it. So what can I control right now? Number one, every county I go in, and I will be going in, I'm having a meeting with the county auditor. I'm having a walkthrough of their entire process to fully understand what I call the chain of custody of a ballot. Does that make sense? Yes. As a special forces engineer and intelligence professional, I've been deemed a subject matter expert at threat analysis and vulnerability analysis. So the geek in me can map out a complete system, and I will find their vulnerabilities, right? Is there any breaches? How their systems are connected? Are they connected out, or are they compartmentalized so that they can't get hacked? So I have that understanding of what right looks like and what wrong looks like. But it's important to understand in 2016, and just last Thursday, last Thursday, I had a discussion with a state election integrity subject matter expert who I am working with, so that everybody understands I am working with people on my team to have a full understanding and to look for risks and to bring mechanisms in to mitigate that risk, such as when I meet with these auditors, I ask so that we can validate and show that your county is up to par and doing the right thing for the citizens. Where can we place our election watchers, our poll watchers? So far, there has not been resistance, so far. Now, King County, I haven't gotten in there yet. I'm not gonna make an assumption. I'm gonna assume good intent. Trust but verify. So that's what we can control now. In 2016, this person told me last Thursday, Simi, with your plan, it seems like you are going to overwhelm the system, just like what happened in 2016. We will have so many more votes come in, independents as well as Republicans, more than ever before. That'll overwhelm the system, and it has been shown to be a mitigating factor when it comes to election fraud. Now, once we get elected, forensic audits, in-person voting, voter roll authentication, right? We will not have illegal voters voting in Washington State. It's against the law. We uphold the law. It's that plain and simple. I'm not discriminating. We will never silence a vote. We will lift everybody up, but we have to get in office to make it happen. Did I see? Yes. Stephanie. Mm-hmm.
But I know for a fact that we have non-citizens voting.
Yes.
Because a lady had confided in me, she's from China, she's
Mm-hmm.
married an American citizen, she's not registered, I mean, she's not legal.
Mm-hmm.
But she got a ballot because she has a driver's license in Washington State. So she voted illegally.
Yeah, that is the vulnerability right now. And in this case, because she was married to an American citizen, they looked at it as a household, and someone got lazy, right? So when you have a law that says your driver's license allows you to vote, when you give a driver's license to anybody, non-citizen alike, that means your system is broken. We have the right to call for an audit. We do, and it has been done before. Joe Kent did it down south. And the good news for Joe and his team, they found no improprieties, right? And so, again, we don't deny it, but we factor in what we can do now to prevent it, and the best thing we can do is to vote. I pray that everybody understands that. Because there's this notion that, why even vote? They're going to steal it from us. How does that make sense? How does it make sense? So we do what we can do to ensure that we overwhelm that system and dare them to try to steal the election. I'm going to say, folks, I'm not naive. Again, you know what I used to do for a living. There's no naivety that goes into my work. And I won't sit here and go into detail, but Mama didn't raise no fool, and neither did Special Forces Intelligence. And so I will not get played in this election on your behalf. I will not be played on this election at all. We will make sure that they are in notice not to play that game. Yes.
First of all, I was born in Oakland, California also.
Right on, my girl. You know the East Side, East 14th, 86?
I was 7 months old when my dad took me away.
I gotcha.
When we went to,
Oh,
he was
you're
in the
lucky.
Navy, so we went overseas.
Right on. Oh, excellent. Thank you.
So I'm part of a gun range that's being, what's the right word, Carl? Attacked.
Yeah.
So, and the county is very relentless. They're just getting on us and getting on us, getting on us. We're all volunteers, and the county has all of our tax money to be attacking us. So my big thing is that you said you were going to go to the county's auditors and see what's going on over there. So what is your goal for Kitsap County to get all of our rights back? And also, what is your stand on the Second Amendment? That's my big thing. We used to have just a women's night. They would come out and shoot just because they had violence in their life, or just learn how they want to learn how to shoot or whatever. That we can't do that anymore. We can't teach because we can't shoot on our own property.
Yeah, so I have a lot to say about that. Number one, it's unconstitutional. I think we want to talk about the Constitution. So she's not a plant, I promise. I teach, and in 2 months I will be teaching. We do the same thing in Benton County at the range in Prosser. I've done it for the last couple of years. It's a ladies' shoot, is what we call it, and we have a whole plethora of weaponry. My first deployment was as a sniper and a sniper team leader. That was my first deployment for Enduring Freedom. I have an understanding of weaponry. I will say at the highest levels, I was our Special Forces team designated marksman. I understand that guns don't kill people. People kill people. It takes an action to discharge a round, and that's that trigger. And I can walk you through the whole thing, but I won't do that to you, right? And so Second Amendment, and it's not just the Second Amendment for our U.S. Constitution. In Washington State, it's Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution. You got to know what you got to know if you can do what you got to do, right? And so I completely reject this gun law, this ban on assault weapons, because of this notion that guns are responsible for human behavior. That's not true. And it's not my opinion. The American Psychological Association, the APA, did a study, an empirical study on this. The causation can be traced back to social economic factors in the community, stuff that we're going to be handling in our office, right? And so again, guns don't kill guns, and the Constitution must be sacrosanct. It is our Constitution. It doesn't need to be rewritten. It needs to be reread, right? And to be more specific, you bring an issue like that, I'll go right to that person if I need to read them what the Constitution is about. I have no problems. I'm legit with that. I'll bring a smile and I'll bring the love. But that's wrong. You've shut down a range. There's no Constitution or legal basis for doing that. And just real quick as we transition, we had that horrible shooting in Kentucky this morning, right? In Louisville, I believe, right? And so they had the mayor go up before they had the governor go up, and the mayor. It's like, did you hear what I heard? He had like 30 seconds and he said gun violence like 30 times. And there was no mistake what that man was doing. Well, this morning, gun violence. There were some deaths, gun violence, due to gun violence. It was ridiculous. And I'm listening as I'm driving over, right? And I'm like, this is what's going on. Psychological operations to manipulate voters to think, oh, now here's another one. You already know what with Attorney General Ferguson. You already know they're writing up their stuff right now. And Jay Inslee, I'm sure they're going, Bob, what are you going to say? I don't know, Jay, what do you want to say? Well, Bob, you say what I say, and I say what you say, so say something, right? And so they're going to be ready to say gun violence, gun violence, gun violence. I'm going to finish on this because this is really sensitive to me, so you know how fired up I get about the Second Amendment and Section 24 of Article 1. If we take away guns from law-abiding citizens, the criminals do not have a problem getting guns. You are disarming law-abiding citizens, and you are creating a threat for our society because they will not have a problem. They're not the ones who go to the stores and, I'd like to register, and here's my driver's license, you can run a police check on me. No, they do not. Right? They get their stuff off the black market. We cannot play that. The Second Amendment was number 2 for a reason. There's that. Cool? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know when you were in office, if you will take a look at the state of Washington doing their own voter roll checking, because currently what the Secretary of State does is send our voter list out to somebody, a private company owned by Democrats, and they do the checking, maybe.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, you're going to give people a chance to run their department. Well, if that person's been running that department for 8 years or more, what kind of a chance do they need?
Oh, no. So, again, I could talk all day long on this. First, I'll talk about the voter rolls. No. Our election system must be bulletproof. And what I mean by that is transparent. This administration was trying to run a law that said if you dare question the election laws, you would be penalized. If that is not a banana republic, I don't know what the heck is. You know what I'm trying to say? Oh, how dare you question me? Stick the gendarme on them. That's not American. There's nothing like, again, they don't understand what the Constitution means or is, right? And they don't care. They clearly do not care. And I don't usually say words like this because I like to, a little bit of honey instead of the vinegar, but you got to call it what it is. When you start trying to pass an income tax, which goes against the Constitution of this state, that they tried to do since 1932 in this state, and then they changed the name, and then they say, oh, it's not an income tax, and the Supreme Court, J. Inslee appointed, said, oh, no, it says it's an excise, so it must not be an income tax, when the IRS says it's an income tax. This is the offense that I feel. It must be that they don't care. So to your question, again, you have to understand what would happen, we, as a new administration being elected, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. You see the world when people go, yeah, fire them all, right? Lock them up. No, you cannot. You have to do it a right way, not because it's just the right thing to do, but I'm a human resources professional. I'm a PHR, okay? That means bargaining agreements, all those things. I'm what you call the subject matter expert. My graduate degree was in human resource development. There's laws that protect people's employment, especially if you're bargaining unit, which the majority of our state is, by the way, right? And so I've taken all that, and I know how to make it happen. So we will bring accountability, but we have to do it within the framework of the law and not to cause an implosion with our administration when we're starting to lead. It's very important. Again, you would see my step, you go, that man does not sleep, and my wife will tell you that. I got to follow the mic, but I'm still with you guys. I'm still with you.
I just want to know if you have a plan. I know you've already spoke about you're going to go to churches, you're going to go to the different groups. But my concern is Pierce and King County ballot harvesting with the homeless and whoever that they're harvesting from. Do you have a plan?
I love that, and we do. We have a comprehensive community voting initiative. Ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting, right? You know what I'm saying, sister? Ballot harvesting is legal in Washington State, right? We have said, well, we're not supposed to do that. No, it's legal in Washington State. This is what we're bringing to the table. Again, mama didn't raise no fool, right? So if this is legal, and it's better in some people's minds to go to a senior living facility, which I have a whole list of that I'll be visiting, because they deserve a voice. They deserve to know who their governor is. They have lived their life. They have paid their taxes. They have contributed to the nation. If anything, they should be the first places I should be going to give them the respect and telling them we're running for office and we'll be back with a box. You can put your ballot right there. So no, that's what we are doing. We are bringing that, and we have a comprehensive program to make that happen. So going into those communities, that is just the beginning. That is a tether to our community voting initiative. We're going to get the votes. We're not waiting for the votes to come to us. Now you understand why I started 2 years early. It's called strategy. And anybody who jumps in the race after this point, I want you to ask them, where were you? What is your strategic plan? Oh, I know. You were waiting for the bless off from this group or that group or that group. I'm saying that publicly because you all understand I'm telling you the truth. I am not supporter from mainstreamers, megas, moderates, minions, or any of the rest of them. I'm not. My name is Semi Bird, and I represent the people, not cabals who call themselves Republicans or conservatives, and they think they can make the decisions for the people of Washington State. I'm taking my argument to the people of Washington State. To me, they are more important than the cabals that run this state. And I'm not a revolutionary, but y'all need to know this is what happens within your state politics. I'm a part of that system, but I don't play that game. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm speaking to a specific voter bloc, the 18 to 30-year-old. You know, the Democrats gave them a reason to vote for them, and you know that was pro-choice. In fact, I went to an election night party and met a 22-year-old who was attending Gonzaga University, and she's telling me they were all excited to vote the Democratic line because they want pro-choice. So I'm saying we need to give them something to vote for, and that might be the life opportunity that you and I talked about earlier, about how we, created our life and, we came from nothing and we're able to build this life. But we have to give the young people something to vote for. And we can't focus on Roe versus Wade. It's a non-winning issue for us. So, we can't speak to that per se as a lead platform. We need to lead so maybe you have something, and I don't mean to put you on the spot about it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you don't, we got to create something for those 18 to 24-year-olds. Why are they going to vote for Semi?
No, it's a good question, and again, this is not another plant. So I just met for the first time, but she's been wonderful online supporting us. We have it done. It's called the Flock. So if you go to our website, you'll see the Flock. It's a whole separate thing only for youth. We have a youth movement. We have a youth ambassador from Turning Point USA, Kellyanna Brooking, and we are building a youth coalition, right? Well, again, our youth movement is going into the universities, and we are giving voice to the young people because the young people have not been engaged. That is another voting block you said so eloquently. Minorities don't feel that Republicans care because we haven't gone to them. Youth always aligned with the Democrats because Republicans never talked about their social economic platforms. We only talked about cutting taxes. You think a young person or a poor person worries about paying taxes? Right? I'm like, So this is why, I'm just telling you guys, this is why I'm running. Because, it's like God laid it out to say, you. I'm like, no, yes, no. Then I asked my wife's permission. Okay, I'll do it. Right? Oh, surely. That's how it went, God, then my wife, after I did all my research to make sure that there was a glow at the end of the tunnel. Because I'm not going to run for an office for the sake of running. There are people who do that. I don't need fame or fortune. I don't need anything. I'm doing this because we can save this state. So we have a youth coalition right now. It's already on the website. You can go to my website, birdforgovernor.com, look for The Flock, and you'll click on it. It brings you a whole new web page, and it's really cool with young people stuff and colors. I'm doing this because it has lines. I'm like, that's not linear. Anyway, for young people. So we are activating the youth across the state of Washington. We are tying into young Republicans, and we're tying into young youth groups, 4-H clubs, Future Farmers of America, and other social groups, again, that we don't talk about. Right? And by the way, if you're a Democrat, I'll talk to you. I'll work with you. Is there anything wrong with that? Of course not. But you know what they're going to say? Because I was always a MAGA from them. And then now I heard a couple people say, well, he must be a rhino. It's like, I'm going to be a MAGA, a rhino. I'm going to be all kinds of things by the time this is done. But you know what I'm going to be? Governor. Right? That's it. Of the people, by the people, right? For the people. That's what we're doing here.
We have 3 questions left.
Yes, that was cool. That's my cut it off bell. Sorry, Lord, I'm talking too much. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to cut off the cars in 2030 like Inslee's going to do? He wants no more cars in Washington State. And what about this one world government. J.P. Morgan just said a few days ago that he wanted private property confiscated by either the government or who's going to confiscate private property. Did you
Yeah.
ever see that?
So, yeah, and it can't. Again, this is how when someone says they don't care, it makes you consider that, right? Because it says right there, I'm not sure if that's Section 3 of Article 1, it's illegal, right? They have to have just cause to take a person's property. So let me answer your question. And there was a couple of things in there. So electric cars by 2035, I think was his date, aligns with Biden's new Green Deal from the AOC. People forget that whole climate change stuff. And again, I'm all for preserving the climate, but what are they doing about China and India that are polluting mass quantities where we have one of the cleanest climates? Washington State, 65% of our energy comes from hydroelectricity, which is carbon free. Not to mention the millions of kilowatt hours from nuclear, which is also a feasible, clean, safe form of energy. I will support and raise both without compromising our dams. And so to answer your question, when you mine cobalt on the slave laborers of Africans in the Congo, to be specific, right? There's something wrong with that. But the same people, if you get your sweater made in India and Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, you're an axe murderer. They can't have it. Progressives are the heightened level of hypocrisy.
They are.
And I'm going to call them on it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So no, we are not going to push electric cars and citizens when you look at the cost. You look at the infrastructure. You look at the feasibility and sustainability. You get me a plan. I am all for renewable energy. All for it. But not at the compromise of jobs and exorbitant cost, not just to our citizens, but what are they doing to our hunters and our fishermen? I can go on another hour on that, and we will protect that. I will appoint commissioners who actually know what hunting is, what fishing is. I will appoint commissioners who actually know what logging is, and I will appoint commissioners of parents and families to the Board of Education who know the value of families and their children's education. So this is a whole new concept coming to Washington State where we serve the people and we recognize that it is by the people's will. It's what we are here to do. That's what I'm going to do. And I think you had a question? Yes. Hi.
So, Native American tribes they're really strongly lean towards Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Native American tribes are mostly Democrats. So how are you going to approach them? How are you going to get their vote? How are you going to persuade them?
Yeah, it's, again, tribes and tribal elders, just like any other marginalized group, and I use that phrase lightly, but with respect. They are just like anybody else. They want what's best for their people. They want what's best for their community. And like anybody else, they want what is the return on investment. Kind of like that Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately, right? So we're going to bring the Janet Jackson to them and tell them how we are going to benefit the tribe, supporting. And again, I understand how they work. Department of Interior, they're a separate, right? They function in separate laws than we do. And I respect that. But they're still our brothers and sisters, right? We still share commonality of lands, commonality of economy. We will approach them. We will strike arrangements that mutually benefit them, because I already know we have an advisor for tribes, an advisor for the Asian American community, Hispanics, the Black community. We have an advisor in our campaign for every community, and Kellyanna for the youth community I was just telling you about with the flock. It's the same thing. We have our tribal advisor, and actually advisors in that. So Mark Herr is my manager for the Center of Self-Governance. His wife, Pam, is part Native American. She is heading up our tribal initiative to reach out to bring multiple people. So Pam's talking with multiple people right now. So to give you their names, I would not be able to, but I will give you the name of my team. Mark Herr is my candidate manager, or my campaign manager. Pam Herr, his wife, is leading up our tribal engagement. So Pam Herr, and they live in Okinawa. Oh yeah, let's do it. I'll be here. Absolutely, I would love that. So work with us, because we're going to engage them. Was that the last question, or I don't want to? Yeah. Okay, I want to say to you guys again, first and foremost, thank you so much for the very warm welcome. I was floating in, and I'm going to float out. I know it. I brought signs for everybody. We have them in the back. And so if you're so inclined, please grab a sign. Also, I'm going to close with this. Please don't wait. Don't wait to support us. Don't wait to get behind us. And again, you have every right. This is because you know where I stand. I stand with you. But the longer we wait, the more chances we have of not reaching that light at the end of the tunnel. We have a candidate, I believe, and that candidate is me. And you understand who this candidate works for, right? Exactly. And so your donations matter. And I brought some envelopes. I'm going to pray that you guys, I got a couple already, and God bless you guys. I hope that you'll donate to our campaign. I hope you'll support our campaign. And just your kindness means the world to me. And I'm just going to end with saying, God bless you, and thank you very much.
I've had Sammy wait because there's something that somebody would like to give him. Please be seated. I'd like to let you all know. My phone. Oh, here we go. So I want you to know that we have an amazing constitutional member whose father has written books. First of all, I'm going to read those. The 5,000-Year Leap, subtitled 28 Great Ideas That Changed the World. He also wrote The Making of America, The Naked Communist and the Naked Capitalist. And this is Sharon Cray, and she has a gift for you.
So I would like to give to him as a thank you for speaking to the greatest group of Republican women in the state of Washington. This book, The 5,000-Year Leap, and have you already read this?
No, I have not.
Because
this is going to be great.
It sounded like it from his speech.
Well, I love the Constitution.
Yes, we do. And this has the 28 great principles of the Constitution inside of it. Mark Herr has read this book. So now you're in trouble.
So now you know. So if you don't know Mark Herr, Mark, again, is very senior in our team. Well, he's my manager. I told you I'm a constitutionalist. Anything I tell you, it's not words. We're doing. You know why I can cite RCWs and amendments in our Constitution, because I study it every day. I need to know what I need to know to serve you the best that I can serve you. And so I'm so honored by this. It means the world to me. Our American, our Constitution means everything to me, because that is why I'm here with you today, because of the beauty of this nation and our Constitution and the grace of God. So this means the world to me. Thank you.
Oh, you're sure welcome. This is just a kind of a PowerPoint of that I give when I teach the Constitution class.
Awesome.
So you can get through it really, really fast.
Someone told you I need pictures, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.